Perfect. So first, well, welcome to you all for being here today. My name is Reagan Carlisle. I am normally the Vice President for Education and Community Programs here at United Arts. For the past 7 months, I've also been serving as the interim president of United Arts while we are looking for a new leader of our organization. So thank you for being here. With me today is my colleague, Lisa. Lisa, I'm not sure for some reason I can't see you anymore. There you are. My colleague Lisa, who is our Director of Communications, but she has agreed to help me out with this session this morning. If you have questions at any time, feel free to put them in the chat. And I'll stop a few times and to answer those questions to make sure that you leave here today with all of your answers. Also, we have auto captioning enabled. So if you need that, you can click that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Community Spotlight Project Grants. We have a couple of different funders who are making this possible. National Endowment for the Arts, the North Carolina Arts Council, and of course, Wake County. Some of you may know a lot about United Arts and some of you may be new to us. So I just wanted to give you kind of an overarching look at what United Arts is about. We support and increase programming for the arts throughout Wake County. We have a number of grant programs, and some of those grant programs are for individual artists or schools and towns and arts organizations. Arts organizations are the ones we're talking about today. And then also for programs, we have our 40+ year Artist in Schools program that we work with all the public, private, and charter schools here in Wake County. We have a brand new internship program, Diversity in Arts Leadership, that is launching next week for the first time. We have a municipal murals program. And then we also have our Piedmont Laureate program. That's just a snapshot so that some people think that all we do is give money to support arts programming, but we also offer a number of direct programs ourselves. So let's keep going. But today we're here to talk about Community Spotlight Project Grants. So this is a new program here at United Arts. This is our inaugural year of this particular grant program. It is to support innovative projects that feature or are led by historically marginalized, underfunded, or underrepresented communities. This is kind of a growth of a previous grant category we used to have called cultural access, but we've expanded it. So for some of you who may have applied to that program, some of this may sound familiar, but we are reaching farther into communities with this program. I want to launch directly into the eligibility requirements to make sure that everyone who is here is actually eligible to apply. First, you have to be a nonprofit arts or cultural organization with 501c3 status in order to be eligible to apply. You need to have had at least 3 years of programming, and you need to have a history of working with historically marginalized, underfunded, and underrepresented communities. So those are three, for the applicants themselves, those are three things that must be in place in order to be eligible to apply. Collaborative projects are definitely welcome, but you would have to pick a partner who does meet these eligibility criteria in order to be the primary applicant. So keep that in mind, that if you have a great idea and you are not a nonprofit organization, you might consider partnering with someone who does meet these criteria so that together you can apply for this funding. That's not a fiscal sponsorship situation. That's more of a partnership situation. Okay, for the projects, what are the eligibility criteria for the projects themselves? Of course, they must be arts related. We are the United Arts Council. We care deeply about the arts. The projects must take place in Wake County. You do not have to be based in Wake County, but your project has to take place here in Wake County. And it needs to take place from September through June 30th of next year. So this is going to be a very fast turnaround with when the application deadline, I think, is July 8th. And we're going to try to expedite the panel process so that projects starting September 1st could be funded. The project needs to be compatible with whatever your mission is as an organization. And of course, it needs to feature a majority of artists who are historically marginalized, underfunded, or underrepresented. For us, we're thinking artists of color, artists with disabilities, female artists, queer artists, I did have a question from someone about if veterans would be appropriate for this grant. And actually, no, we really want to focus on these types of marginalized communities for this particular grant in this first year. The grant request, you can ask for anywhere between $1,000 and $10,000. So you don't have to ask for the maximum amount, but you need to ask for at least the minimum amount. And there's no matching requirement. If you ask for $10,000 and your entire project from start to finish equals $10,000, that's fine. So you don't have to come up with your own dollars to bring this project to life. We are willing to support up to $10,000 per project. It is competitive. I don't really know how many applications we will receive, so I'm not able to say how many projects we will be funding, but know that this is the range that you're allowed to request. What can the project support, or what can the grant support? Basically, anything that's related to the project. It can do fees, contracts, marketing, advertising, supplies, materials, space. You can include up to 25% for your administrative salaries, which I would argue are a part of the project, but I just wanted to clarify that because I get that question a lot. So anything that is directly related to the project. Which may beg the question, what can it not support? Expenses that are not related directly to the project. So we're leaving this pretty open. Like I said, this is our first year of this particular grant category. So I want to make sure that it'll be a learning opportunity for us as well. So I'm trying to leave things kind of broader so that we can see what kinds of questions you all have and how we can make things clear in the future. Okay, let me stop for a second. Do you have questions? What kinds of, Lisa, do you see any questions in the chat or?
Travel expenses for the artists, is that covered?
Oh, sure, yeah.
That. Okay.
Can I ask a question, Reagan? This is Maureen down in Fuquay.
Maureen.
3 years of programming and history of working with these communities. Do you want 3 years of history, or is having worked with them previously in some manner enough? What are you looking for there?
I left that purposefully vague. So 3 years of programming so that you know how to successfully produce arts programs in our community. And then
Okay.
in history of working, I think it would probably be a more competitive application if you have worked with whatever community over time, but that doesn't mean you're ineligible to apply.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure thing.
So I am actually representing a school. We have a nearly majority Asian and actually 40 to 45% Indian student body. And I have spoke to Ramya Kapadia about collaborating on doing some sort of like week-long event with the possibility of like a flash mob at the end or so, but it would be through the school. So I guess my question is, are schools, can we do something like that, or is it something that's only open to arts organizations?
This particular grant well, first, that project sounds awesome. Okay. Second, this particular community spotlight project grants is only for nonprofit arts organizations, so schools are not eligible to apply. However, keep an ear out for a grant category we have called school projects. And because this sounds like it might be appropriate for that.
Okay. Yeah, we've had because the school is so large, and I mean, Indian dance seems to be the main focus, but because our school is so large, it's very hard to do that and also serve like 1,000 students, because most of the dance programs are fairly small.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
All right. Well, I will leave the meeting then, but I will keep an eye out for that. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions before we move on?
There's one more. If a non-paid administrator is also an artist who will work directly, no, sorry, if a non-paid administrator is also an artist who will work directly with the project, can a stipend be paid to that administrator, which would naturally be more than 25% of nothing? I don't
I think I follow that
Yeah,
question.
if you want to unmute yourself, Kara, sorry.
Hi,
Yeah,
hi, sorry about that. So we have been actually functioning for, we're coming up on a 25-year anniversary, but our administrative staffs, because we're doing what we love, we have not taken money back out of the organization for quote unquote salaries. So we're not getting paid unless we go and do specific work or a project. We're not, on salary. And so the stipulation about not paying administrators, I just wanted to see if I could thread that needle where in our activity we would be able to get paid for, since we are the artists doing the work.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it. And when I say 25% for administrative salaries, that's 25% of however much money you request from us.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but regardless, participating artists should be paid, be like paying artists.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Just one. Are seniors considered marginalized? Commission wants to know.
That's a good question. Let me give that some thought to figure out. Let me give that some thought.
And then another question on travel expenses for artists, which we know can be used to pay the artists or pay their expenses. Can this support a project that happened in the past, i.e. partnership initiative involving peer mentoring workshops, etc., with community music school? We funded this internally previously. I guess they're asking if they've done it before without our funding, and can they do it the same project again, I guess, with funding?
Okay, so it doesn't have to be a brand new project. All I can say is depending on how many applications we receive, I bet the panelists might perceive certain projects to be more innovative than others. But they won't know that until they see what you all have proposed. So you are not disqualified from replicating something that was successful in the past. That is allowed.
It's good for now.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
I have a question. So my business is for profit, but it is an art gallery and gift shop that employs adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I was wondering if you had other grants that might apply to that, or if I can partner with a nonprofit to apply for the grant. For example, I do a lot of work with Gigi's Playhouse, which is an achievement center for individuals with Down syndrome.
Partnering would be the best choice for this. So partnering with an organization that is a nonprofit, who would be your partner in implementing the work.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's keep going then. Okay, let's take a look at the application. Some of you may have already looked at the application, but I want to make sure. So the best way to do it is to go to the United Arts website. And that some of you may have already seen this too. Up in the grants, and then it says community spotlight project grants, click. And then here's a little description about it. You scroll down, you see here are the guidelines, important. We're going over most of this stuff today, but it's all in writing in the guidelines. And then to click this little button to get to the application. This is through Submittable. Those of you who have an existing relationship with United Arts, you probably have used Submittable a number of times with us. Those of you who are new, it's Submittable, it's online. You create an account and then you just fill in the blanks and then you hit submit at the bottom, and it's as easy as that. So the first part of the application is very straightforward. Remember, applicant name. The applicant must be a nonprofit arts or cultural organization. So even if you're partnering, I want that applicant name to be the one who is eligible. The address, website, the primary contact on the primary contact's email. I communicate a lot via email through all of our grant programs because I like to have things in writing. So make sure that email address is correct. I have noticed that sometimes people think, oh, email is so easy, and then they type it in incorrectly, and then I have a hard time communicating with them. So you just might want to keep an eye on that. Your tax ID number. Grant amount request, remember between $1 and $10,000. This complete the following sentence. We are seeking funding to support. Okay, this is just a one sentence encapsulated description of whatever it is you're proposing. This is, you are not convincing anybody of anything. This is to help me organizationally manage however many applicants we get in. So a single sentence that explains what it is that your project is. Then we dive into the narrative prompts. What's the mission statement of your nonprofit organization? Number 2, what is the history and programming? Just kind of give us a sense of who you are and what you do, kind of overarching. And then if you include your history of working with specific communities in this history programming would be a great place to do that. Project overview. This is basically the meat. I guess that doesn't work if you're vegetarian. The bulk of your application. Include what is it that your project is about, give in detail, include location and specific and significant artistic collaborations and partnerships. So if you're partnering with another organization, this would be a good place to fold that information in. The timeline of the project. So notice that we can't fund anything that starts before September, but it is possible that maybe some planning or things have already happened. I'm not sure, that's really up to you. But remember, whatever we fund has to be done by June 30th of next year. So in that time, we want to see that you've actually thought your project from beginning through the end. And we consider that to be planning to evaluation. So it's kind of, that's the range of how to properly plan or how to effectively plan something. A program in the arts. Community value. You tell us, how does this proposed project fulfill a community need? How are you spotlighting historically marginalized, underfunded, or underrepresented communities? And you don't have to do all the community, just pick a community that works, that is appropriate for the work that you're already doing. And what will the impact be on the community that you're serving? You tell us. We're not, I mean, we may be able to guess, but if you tell us, it just makes things extra clear. How do you plan to evaluate this project at the end? And this is really up to you and the individual project. Like, what does success mean to you, and how are you going to tell if you are successful? Like maybe your project is, you know what, I'm not even going to give examples because I don't have any examples since this is the first year of this program to do. But whatever success looks like to you, how are you going to see if you did that? And that's it for narrative prompts. We're trying to keep it really straightforward. Bios of lead personnel. So whoever is going to be managing the project, or maybe a lead artist in the project, or whatever makes sense for your project, tell us about them. If they have a resume, you can upload it. If you'd rather just do a paragraph bio of them, you can upload it. Something to give the panelists the sense that this is a very qualified person or people who know about this art form and or connecting with this community. And so you're giving us faith that these would be dollars very effectively spent. Okay, next, the project budget. Okay, notice I didn't give you a form to fill out. I told you some things that I think would make for a good project budget, which are fees, contracts, marketing, advertising, space, materials, anything like that. But I'm leaving it up to you in whatever format makes the most sense to you. Usually people upload something that kind of looks like a spreadsheet. But if spreadsheets are not your thing, just make sure the math works. That's all I ask. Just make sure the math works. Like if somebody had $10,000, how would you spend all the money? Or if you're only asking for $5,000, how would you spend all 5,000 of those dollars? And remember that money would need to be spent between September and June. Between September of this year and June 30th of 2023. Budget narrative. So in the budget, in theory, would be only numbers, right? Numbers and little brief descriptions like space rental and then a number, or marketing and then a number. The budget narrative is a place that you can provide any non-numerical information needed to clarify your budget. When I say clarify your budget, so that means that me and the panelists can understand where you got those numbers from. That this is an opportunity for you to use words to describe what the numbers are showing in a different way. You know, each of us communicates and receives information in a different way. Some people are number people, some people are word people. We're trying to give you two options so that we can best understand what you're trying to convey to us. Support materials. This is just optional. This would be a way for you to show the panelists that what your organization has done recently, anything that may be relevant to the project that you're proposing, to give the panelists faith that you have experience in this and you have experience, you know, in producing arts programming in the community, any kind of support material. We always love web links, but if that's not an appropriate thing, you can upload something. Like if a video or a soundbite is not appropriately descriptive of your project or would not be helpful for your project, you can feel free to upload other types of support materials. You'll see here that there are like a lot of different acceptable file types. If you have another one that I didn't list there, you just let me know and I can update the application if you have a different kind of support material you would like to upload. If you are not a current United Arts grant recipient, we do need to know a few things about you. We need to see a list of your board of directors. Because remember, you have to be a nonprofit and nonprofits have boards of directors. Just upload a list. Your tax exempt letter, we'd like to see a copy, and financial statements for your organization as a whole. And this is only if you just applied to us for mission support grants, you don't need to do this because I would have that information. But if you're new to United Arts, we do need to just make sure that organizationally you would be appropriate recipient of these funds. So this doesn't really have anything to do with the project. This is just your organization and your IRS Form 990, your tax return that all nonprofits are required to submit to the IRS. Okay, and that's the end of the application. Look at that. Save drafts. One thing, remember, I cannot see anything until you hit submit. So if you were suddenly wanted to call me and say, hey, how does the application look so far? That's not a thing I'm able to do. I'll be happy to have conversations with people, but know that this is up to you to work on this in the privacy of your office or your home or whatever. And then once you submit, then I'm able to see it. If you lose your submittable password or username, you have to contact Submittable directly. I also don't have that information either. Like, I don't know who started a draft. I'm not able to see those things. Okay, what questions do we have about the application?
We don't really have questions about the application, more about how it can be funded. Somebody wanted to know if they're fiscally sponsored projects, can they apply? Can fiscally sponsored projects apply?
So not really, because remember, but you can apply as a partnership as long as the primary applicant meets the eligibility criteria. So usually fiscal sponsorship is not generally a real partnership. We're looking for partnerships here. And
then, does that answer your question? I think it was right. No, it wasn't Rachel. It was Kayla.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. And then if the project results in a production, can grant funds support the production taking place in North Carolina and places outside of North Carolina? As long as it's Wake County, but I don't think.
so if the first production is taking place here in Wake County, sure. And then if it's so successful, you need to take it on the road, by all means go. But we're only going to support things that take place here in Wake County.
On the project start date, if fiscal year season based with July 1 to 22 to June 23 run, does still qualify?
So for this, because of the timing, we're not able to support anything that starts before September 1st. Because like you haven't, I mean, the deadline isn't until July 8th. So obviously we can't support anything that starts in July because we would not be able to give you any money yet. So we think it'll be September 1st is the start date of things we can support. So I know it's not a full year. It's like a portion of a fiscal year. That's what we've got for this year.
Anybody else? Okay, hold on. For financial internal review letters, since our fiscal year ends June 30th, and this is a fast turnaround, can we use the 21-22?
Sure thing. Sure thing. Nicole, I see your hand.
Hey.
Yes, hi, good morning, Reagan and Lisa. Question, two-part question. The first one might be easier. It's around the application and the evaluation criteria for sort of your effective project planning, meeting, session, and evaluation. Is the review committee following the standard rubric that you all curate to determine what's considered effective planning, or how is that assessed?
I'm not giving them a rubric to tell them what I think constitutes effective planning, because it could be so different based on what the project is. Like if you want to do a production versus you want to do a slam, like a one-time pop-up slam poet in the middle of a public place, would be a very different kind of planning process than like, I would like to write a musical now. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, I'm not going to give them a rubric that's that structured.
Okay, so you just wanted to see that we're being thoughtful and not just throwing ideas at the wall. Got it. And the second question is, if we are the organization that represents historically marginalized groups or groups of color who are seeking to, by request, to partner with organizations who are not serving as diverse of a group, where they might want us to infuse more cultural arts experiences for their young people, can we use funding to help make that possible so it's less of a hit for them? So our mixed demographic, we serve majority Black and brown young people, our staff artists, our artists of color. If we take our students and our staff artists to these other arts organizations that don't have a similar demographic and they're trying to diversify their children's experience, would that be okay? Since the funding is coming to us, but we can use that allotment to send our artists out to create these experiences for their students?
Possibly, just make sure that it's kind of like the majority of the participating artists are from one of the marginalized communities. Because because that's kind of one of the reasons that we're calling it Spotlight Project Grants, is because we really want to spotlight specific communities. So as long as that's still happening, that does sound like it would be a competitive application.
Yeah, like our art forms of African step, dance, hip hop, bringing it into more traditional, a theater space, for example, where the majority of their young people might identify as white, but we're representing our cultural arts, what we do for art with our communities in their space, because they want to broaden their artistic experiences. We would be highlighting our artists in their art form, so to speak.
Yeah, I would encourage you to think carefully about how to answer the community value question, because it almost sounds like you're adding value to their community, but I would make sure that it's about adding value to, when I say your community, like, so just make sure that you articulate that in a way that is easily understood by others.
Got it. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Any more questions before we dive back into the slides?
I think we're good, Reagan.
Okay. Okay, the evaluation criteria, which is I think what we're getting to. This is different than other grant programs. So basically 40% is community value, 35% is the quality of the project, and 25% is your ability or your perceived ability to complete the project. So all of these are perceived, and this is perceived based on what you tell us in the application. So you get firsthand, you get your fingers in, you get to be involved in how you are perceived because you are giving us the tools and the content for that. Okay, so what do we mean by community value? Do you have a history of working with historically marginalized, underfunded, or underrepresented communities? Does your project specifically identify artistic, cultural, and/or educational value for the community being served? Does your project fulfill a community need? What will this project's impact be on the community? And all of these questions, it's not like a checkbox for each of these questions. These are the kinds of things I'm going to be encouraging the panelists to consider when reading each of the applications. And I think the best thing is that when you're answering the narrative prompt about community value, you tell us, like, so no one's guessing, it's laid out right there. Remember, that's 40%. Okay, so evaluation criteria. The next one is project quality. What is the quality of the project that you have proposed? Is this project well planned? Is the timeline reasonable? Does the budget include all the relevant stuff? Did you include appropriate marketing and evaluation strategies? Some different projects have different levels of what's appropriate or not. So is it appropriate for your project? And then are collaborations or partnerships in place that would make this impactful? That's not absolutely a requirement, but it certainly helps. So once again, these are the kinds of things that the panelists will be looking for to determine, is the project itself a quality project? That's 35%. And then the final thing is your perceived ability to complete the project. Does your organization have the capacity to complete a project like this successfully? Do you have staff who have appropriate and relevant experience? Do you have committed leadership and a stable organization? And is the application itself accurate and complete? So this isn't so much about, this is like your capacity. Like, you may have the best idea in the world, but you've asked us for $10,000, but the project really costs like $100,000 and you're an all volunteer staff who all have day jobs. Like, that seems like it might raise the question, do you have the ability to complete the project successfully? So sometimes it's scaling a thing down so it's manageable. Sometimes it's not. It really depends on your organization and what your ideas are and how you want to connect with the community in this way. Okay. Who scores? Like all of our grant programs, we have a combination of people. We have United Arts Board of Directors. We have folks who are appointed by Wake County, the Wake County Commissioners. We have staff and we have community members. And different people score in different things. Like staff, that's just me. I'm the one who gets to decide, did you turn it in by the deadline? And did you fill in all the blanks? I've tried to help you be successful by making all the questions required. So that it won't submit unless you answer all the questions. But usually it's mostly other people from the community who are making those scoring and funding decisions ultimately. The deadline, Friday, July 8th. So you have just over a month. We're having this information session now so that you have plenty of time to think, to brainstorm what could a project like this look like. You have time to work in your application, to get an outside person to read a draft and provide feedback, to work on your partnerships, to do all those things. So hopefully, and we're doing all this so that we can support things by September 1st. Deadline, Friday, July 8th, before midnight. I put that deadline into submittable so the form just shuts down. So just make sure you keep an eye on that deadline. For those of you who receive a grant, we're going to email notifications in August. It's going to be all electronic contracts and signatures. Like, it'll probably be, not probably, it will be an Adobe signed document that gets emailed to you that can be done. We can send it to the different people who need the signatures and come it right back, because we're trying to make it fast, because we want to support things that happen September through June. But no, we're going to make all the grant payments in one payment, but you're not going to get that payment until November. So this is important. If all of your expenses are September 1st and you need that money on September 1st, this might not be the best grant for you, because we're going to give you all the money, but not until November. So I want to be really clear about that up front. And there will be a final report that is due next July. So you would have time to do that. Okay. Questions? I'm going to stop sharing. What questions are there?
Asking about, can municipalities apply? No, and then, but they can serve as can they serve as partners? Yes.
Correct. You do need, for this one, you need to be a 501c3 nonprofit, but you can have a partner.
Yeah. And then you did say this already, but if the project takes place in Wake County, does a nonprofit applying need to be located in North Carolina?
Oh,
North Carolina.
no, but I would, if I was on the panel, my question would be, what does an arts organization not based in North Carolina know about producing arts programming in Wake County? Like, do you have the right community connections to make that successful? So if you do, make it really clear in that application. And if you don't, maybe this isn't the right one for you, the right opportunity.
Hi, sorry, this is Rachel. I asked that question. Oh, I'm so sorry. My dog is barking. Oh my gosh.
You obviously have a killer squirrel who's trying to get in your house. Do you need help?
He's looking out the window. So here's my situation. My business partner, I actually call her my life mission partner. She is based out of North Carolina, and she's been running an LLC that is completely art-based for the past probably 3 or 4 years. We are talking about running retreats that are basically healing through the arts and storytelling retreats. And the first one we would like to do, we do want to base out of North Carolina. So she is an artist, a storyteller. She's been doing this work for about 25 years. We were really excited about this grant, but when I heard that you've got to do it as a 501c3, that's kind of why I'm asking these different questions. So I'm actually based in Salt Lake City right now. She has already gotten some grants from City of Raleigh, and she's been in the community in North Carolina for quite a while. So where does that leave us as far as eligibility for this?
I mean, you're eligible if you're a nonprofit. We don't say where that nonprofit has to be based. And if your partner has a history of working in this community, that would give us the faith that you know how this community, like what this community is interested in and what the engagement and impact could be, then that sounds like it could be a competitive application.
Okay, thank you so much.
Somebody wants to know, can one organization submit multiple projects? And if your organization has accepted other United Arts grants, are we still eligible?
If your
Two-part.
organization has submitted other United Arts grants, yes, you are still eligible. And number 2, can you submit more than one? I would suggest you not compete against yourself. I mean, I really feel like you should look at the application, your ideas, and pick the strongest, best and put it forward, because you're already going to be competing for limited dollars with other organizations. So don't start off by competing against yourself, is my recommendation.
And Nicole wanted to follow up saying, can this be used as a reimbursement grant if activities are before November, but after the July fiscal year start?
Okay, so this is going to sound so weird, not July, but anything that starts in September 1st, we can totally pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know it is not cool to not get all the money up front before. I get that. I apologize for that. Okay.
What are the limited dollars?
Well, let's see. We got $55,000 from the National Endowment for the Arts, which is awesome because it's hard to get money from the NEA. We'll be getting at least $55,000 to match it. And then we have a number of other outstanding proposals that I really hope come in that we hear from before August when we have to make funding decisions. So it's at least $110,000, hopefully more. And that's also why I can't tell you how many projects, because what if everybody who applies only asks for $5,000? Well, then I'm about to fund a lot more projects than if everybody asks for $10,000. So that's why I don't know that answer specifically.
Anybody else? Do you anticipate funding partial requests?
I'm going to encourage a no to the panelists. This is a conversation I'm gonna, I had not yet had with my board of directors, but I'm going to encourage no, because usually if you have outlaid, if you have a project that costs this much money, you need this much money to fully implement the project. So that's what I'm going to strongly recommend, but I don't have a definitive answer on that.
Okay. I'll drop the link to the guidelines in the chat if anybody wants to.
Thank you.
Or it's also on our website.
Reagan, I have a quick question. This might have come up, but just to clarify, you all would prefer with this grant, because I know you have like your mission grant categories, which used to be like part programming. You'd prefer maybe that it was like a one-time project rather than ongoing existing programming, like something that we might already do year round.
That is the preference, but I'm not going to say it's a strict rule because I don't know how many of you will apply. Do you know what I mean? Like you, and some of you may have really great things. My question, if I was able to score, my question looking at that would be, what is innovative about it if you've been doing it year after year after year? Like, and there may be a compelling answer to that, but if there's not, it might make me score less or lower than maybe another application that seemed innovative and different. Anything else?
I think you're good, unless anybody has something else they want to pop in. I think I got everybody.
If Lisa forgot you, now's your time to speak up.
It wasn't intentional.
Okay, well, let's see. I'm going to share the slides in the recording with folks later on. May not be until tomorrow, but know that it's coming. And I'm going to figure out if senior citizens can be considered a marginalized community for this grant. And then I will let you all know. I don't know how I will let you know. We'll update something, or it was commotion. Is Robin the person who asked that question?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Robin, I will let you know.
Most of the seniors we work with also have dementia and other disabilities, but not necessarily all of them do. So certainly they would qualify if they're disabled, but just wanted to see if not necessarily having a disability, but being a senior also qualifies.
Okay, thank you. I'll let you know. Okay, I'll hang out right here. I'm gonna stop recording now, but I'll hang out in case people have a few more questions and just want to talk to me. Thank you all for being here.